Today, we are going to be talking about DAOs and giving you everything you need to know to understand the foundations about how DAOs work and how can you get involved. We're going to start in a minute. Okay, let's kick this off. My name is Vaida, and I'm education lead at MetricsDAO. I'm very excited to be presenting this webinar to you. And if you're here, let us know by posting in the chat GM or GN, wherever you are. So today, we're going to be talking about DAOs. And DAOs is a very, very important part of the Web3 space, but also of who we are as Metrics. So this webinar is presented to you by MetricsDAO. We are a community of Web3 data analysts who provide Web3 organizations with on-demand data insights and tooling. We are a community of people that are very interested in getting involved and educating themselves about the possibilities of the Web3 space. And we are welcoming people from different backgrounds, even if they are not analysts. One of the things that we have really focused on for those who are analysts is analytic challenges. So any one of you can take part in our challenges by sourcing questions, answering them, or reviewing others. So as a community at MetricsDAO, what we're really focused on is knowledge sharing and mentorship so that anyone of you can grow and become a Web3 data analyst. Other than our Web3 data analyst community, we also have some amazing contributors in our DAO that actually even took our programs. So we actually have some amazing success stories in our DAO, one of them being Sandesh, who's currently a community moderator at MetricsDAO. So Sandesh came into the DAO not knowing so much about blockchain or Web3, but he managed to learn everything he needed to know through his experience taking our educational programs, and getting involved in the DAO. We also had some cases of people when landing full-time jobs after taking our educational program. So we are very excited to be sharing these stories. And at the moment, we have a bunch of different opportunities and educational programs that are all free for you to get involved with. And I'm going to be sharing these details later at the end of the webinar. So stay tuned. But for now, I will also love to turn over to you and ask, what's your background? What brings you here? Would love to hear, are you a marketeer? Are you an analyst? Or maybe you are a developer? Let us know in the chat. We'd love to also know who is here in the audience. But now, let's jump into the topic. So today, we are going to be talking about DAOs. We're going to be talking about what they really are, why do they matter, how they operate in a decentralized way, and what's the future for the DAOs. But to start talking about DAOs, we can look into the whole Web3 space in general. So the vision of Web3 is to build the internet that's owned by the people and fueled by peer-to-peer networks. So you will see that a lot of different initiatives and projects in Web3 are actually going towards this vision on how can we build this internet owned by the people. And this is what really DAOs are about. And if we look into, in general, crypto economies operate, they really look into how can we actually build a new future of work? How can we create new systems for learning, for socializing, for organizing, for distributing ownership, and even getting income? So there's so many interesting things and philosophies that Web3 is bringing, and DAOs is one of the best manifestations of that. And today we're going to be looking into how DAOs are actually, manifesting this vision of Web3. So before we jump into the details, let's even look into the definition of DAOs. So DAOs stand for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So we have these three words, and now let's deconstruct them and see what do they mean separately. So decentralized, well, that means that there is no one person or entity controlling the decisions of the organization and how it is going. The power is given to the people, and the community is driving how the decisions are being made through a decentralized manner. Also, since we are talking here about blockchain technology, DAOs are utilizing this technology by utilizing smart contracts to facilitate processes and create these new ways of how can we communicate, how can we work together as human beings. And we also now see the DAO's new governance structures through utilization of tokens that are being implemented that we had not really seen before. So it's a new way of working. It's a new way of building an organization, and very excited to be sharing with you the different ways and how DAOs are doing that. But when it comes to the actual definition, if we were to describe DAOs in one sentence, we can find so many different definitions online, and everyone really, defines DAOs for themselves and on how they see it. But how I would define it is a group of people with shared ownership that come together, bound by a constitution to make stuff happen. And a lot of the times, they are sharing as well a similar vision, and just together they work towards that vision. So we have normal organizations and we have DAOs. So how do they differ, and what are different qualities that make DAOs what they are and make them different from traditional organizations? So the first huge difference is the structure. So in the traditional organizations, we have the CEO, we have a very clear hierarchy, but a lot of the times, since DAOs are governed by the community, we'll have very flat structure in the organization. Another big difference is that DAOs are open, and because they are open, many more people can join and contribute in the organization than they would be able to if that organization was normal, just a traditional one. Another big difference is that DAOs are transparent. So because DAOs are utilizing blockchain technology, and blockchain technology by itself has a transparent nature, you can actually see the different activity of the smart contracts. You can see how the money is flowing. You can see, the treasury. So there's a lot more transparency, a lot of more things that you can actually see in the DAO. Other than that, the transparency also can be seen in the community. server. So for example, most DAOs will be utilizing Discord server, and a lot of the times they will be ensuring to communicate publicly what they are doing with the DAO, maybe even having calls that about the different decisions to be made in the DAO that can be attended by different members of the community. So the meetings even in the DAOs are way more transparent. And obviously, the last part is that it is decentralization and distributing power to the different members of the community. So some of the key things about DAOs is that they enable decentralized human coordination, they create trustless and transparent systems, and are focused on building from community up. Looking into a bit more detail as well, like what are like some of the ways that DAOs are really make it different, that and how DAOs are really innovating and creating these new systems that maybe we haven't not seen so much before, is that first they are very global. So a lot of times in DAOs, people are coming from different countries to work together, whilst in normal organizations, a lot of the times you maybe have to be from the US, and the only way to contribute in the organization is, is to be from the US. So you're bound by your geographical location, whilst DAOs of the times will open up the borders, allowing people from different countries and different regions to collaborate and work together. Also, we covered the transparent nature, which is both seen in the way the money is flowing, but also the way knowledge is shared and decisions are made. Also, DAOs, as well, since a lot of them are just starting out, they have a very fluid nature and they're adapting and moving quite quickly. Also, one thing that DAOs a lot of the times are doing is they are kind of connecting people with the same vision or the same mission. So the times they will be very much driven by a purpose. Also, since DAOs are member-led, a lot of the times you will see that the decisions are made very much democratically, and that there is a lot of grassroots innovation happening. And also because it's built on chain, it is much more censorship proof. So the first time the concept of DAOs was even mentioned, it was actually back in 2013 in the Ethereum white paper. If you actually want to learn more about Ethereum, we also had a webinar recently on Ethereum that you can find in our YouTube channel. But Untitled Chapter was kind of the first one that who applied the concept of DAOs in the white paper. And then we had in 2016 the first DAO founded. I don't know if you heard of that history of the DAO, but really it wasn't that great because this first DAO was hacked. So it was actually used to decentralize Ethereum at the very beginning. However, like the history didn't end up really well, and then we didn't really see much of a DAO activity for 2016 for years. But now, over the past couple of years, the DAOs have really risen, and we've seen so many different DAOs coming up that we also are going to look into today. We're going to look into what the different DAOs are there and how is this ecosystem looking like at the moment. Right. So now we can also look into what makes DAO a DAO. Like what are the different things that are involved? So I talked about blockchain technology. So one of the things that is actually done with this technology is the wallet. So one of the big things that generally all the DAOs will have is a multi-sig wallet. And this is used to actually manage money within the DAO. And generally, Gnosis Chain is like the most popular one to use for this purpose. And this means as well that, for example, if money needs to be taken out of a DAO, or that if a transaction needs to be made, then multiple people need to sign the transaction so that, now one person can just go and send the money. There has to be an agreement by multiple people that have been kind of allocated as signatories that actually are able to sign the transaction. Also, in DAOs, we have this governance layer, and this governance layer will generally be supported by a token. So a lot of the DAOs, including MetricsDAO, actually have their own token, and we actually have a surprise for you. If you are for attending this webinar, we will be giving you some MetricsDAO tokens as well. So stay tuned for the form that we're going to be sharing with you in the chat. Because when you share, if you fill in the form, you will be able to get some MetricsDAO tokens. So other than that as well, we have this execution layer that's generally enabled by on-chain rules and executed by smart contracts. And also there is some form of communications or coordination layer that is generally used through different tooling. And we're going to be looking into this different tooling later. And that would be Discord, forum, and a snapshot. Okay, so another thing to understand about DAOs and about this governance is, in general, like, what are those tokens? Because we've just spoken about tokens. We said that, okay, these are very important pieces of a DAO, and maybe some of you are not very familiar, what these tokens are, and maybe you've just seen them as, Bitcoin, where you can just buy it for speculation purposes. But in DAOs, actually, tokens can represent way more than just speculation. And they really can be used to make decisions, to incentivize to the people that actually are very active, because a lot of times, the more you contribute to the DAO, the more tokens you will get, and the more incentivized you will be to take certain actions in the DAO. And then you can then use these tokens in order to vote through the different voting mechanisms that are enabled by the DAO. So this means that a lot of the times, the more you stay in the DAO, the more you contribute, the more you can get involved in the decision-making process of the DAO. And there is actually a few layers of this governance mechanism. So a lot of the times, this actually doesn't start on chain. It starts with just an online discussion. Maybe it can be in Discord, in discourse, in the forum, and then someone generally would post a proposal in the forum as well, where people can comment, add any additions, any thoughts, and then this proposal will go into Snapshot platform to see, how people are reacting to it, and people can vote with their tokens for the proposal to pass or not. And then it can go into the on-chain voting, where then actually the tokens are used. So essentially, we have a few different steps for the proposal to pass and for the smart contract to be executed. So the first is, as we talked about it, someone has to submit a proposal, people talk, then distributed by token holders, proposal goes to vote, and then if successful, then the smart contract is going to be executed, and the person is going to be getting money into their wallet. And since DAOs are public and transparent, you can actually see a lot of the proposals publicly as well. So we can even go, let's say, to Aragon's snapshot, and you can see what proposals are being passed there, and that's also a great way to learn, what sort of things are people voting for. And I would really encourage you to check out, these forums and snapshots of different DAOs in order to learn how these voting mechanisms are working. And when it comes to these mechanisms, there's different kinds of mechanisms that DAOs are using. It's really up to them to decide how they want to proceed with it. But one of the kind of most popular ones is called quorum voting. So in this case, for a proposal to pass, a certain number of DAO members must participate in the voting process. And then out of those people that are participating, a certain percentage of them need to say yes. So this is one of the ways. And the proposals can be about so many different things. It can be about technical development. It can be, how we want to do our marketing, who we want to partner with, what's going to happen with our grants, if you want to, create some new grants for our community. But what really it opens up the opportunity for stakeholders to say their own opinion, to actually have the power to make the decision. And also it creates a mechanism to really align people, from different countries. As we talked, that DAOs can really open up opportunities for people from different countries to participate. So it can really align that and create this new mechanism for us all to create this new decentralized collective decisions together. However, it's really not that simple. And a lot of the times, DAOs are facing actually challenges with members maybe not being active and not participating in the government's processes. We did mention before that sometimes for the proposal to even pass, there has to be a certain number of people that would vote for the proposal. But maybe sometimes DAOs would really struggle to collect, even these voters to vote. And sometimes as well, the issue is that people that vote don't have enough context. So maybe there is a proposal that is very technical, and there's a bunch of non-technical people that don't really understand what's happening really on technical front voting. And that's as well kind of creates some issues. And another thing as well is that sometimes people that are eligible to vote have not been maybe even engaged with a DAO for months. So don't really have enough context to understand where the DAO is right now and where it is heading. So that can then create some issues. Also, depending on the voting mechanism, a lot of times, the more you vote, the more DAO tokens you buy, the more you can actually vote, the more power you can have. And that as well can create some inequalities here. So there are certain issues. It's really not that perfect. We're all just now trying to figure everything out and how these governance mechanisms can be implemented and used. So when it comes to even the DAO being formed, so we talked about it being, really open and how everyone can contribute, etc. But generally, when a DAO start, they don't start with like, okay, let's just put 1,000 people in a Discord server and let's see what happens. They generally start from a core group of people that create all the different systems, all the different structures, decide on the initial tooling, maybe create a first smart contracts, and then it as over time, then more and more people are being added, working groups are being formed, or pods are being formed. So over time, generally DAOs have like a marketing pod, and we have a MetricsDAO, a growth pod, maybe like a business development pod, a governance pod. So there's different sort of kind of working groups or pods that are being formed in a DAO. And once a DAO grows, as a lot of times, there even will be sub-DAOs formed, with then maybe they will have even their own, wallets that will have their own structures and governance mechanisms. So as the DAO grows, there's as well like it emerges the necessity to see, okay, how can we actually organize this different group of people, and how can we actually group people together that have similar skills or interests, and how do you want to contribute into DAO? So looking into the most popular DAOs, you'll see that most of them are actually linked with DeFi. So maybe they're controlling some form of a DeFi protocol, maybe some form of a token. So most of the biggest DAOs that have the most money in their treasury. These are generally linked with decentralized finance. Now we're just going to look into more specific examples of what DAOs are out there, and they're just seeing, what are the different possibilities for, a DAO to be created. What are the different use cases that we can see? So one of them is called Shapeshift. So Shapeshift was not initially a DAO. It was actually a decentralized organization, and they just took years in order to decentralize and to give more power to community. So Shapeshift is an open source platform to trade, track, buy, and earn. So we actually have now, even seeing cases of centralized organizations actually venturing into the DAO space and decentralizing their operations. Also, we have MakerDAO that is actually controlling the DAI stablecoin. It's one of the first DAOs. It was started in 2017. So MakerDAO is really one important to be aware of. Then we have Developer DAO. So Developer DAO is a really cool community. So they actually they connect developers and they're working on projects together to make the better internet, to build different kinds of public goods. And in order to join the DAO, you need to have a certain amount of their code token. So it does have gated access. So, just because DAOs are open, it doesn't mean that you sometimes don't need to have an NFT or some tokens to participate. Generally you do, and in the Developer DAO case, it's true, but generally I met so many people who are part of Developer DAO, and everyone has been really, really enjoying their experience there. Also, one of the other ones that is also quite important to be aware of is called Bankless DAO. So Bankless DAO is creating a bunch of different media and educational content. And what they're aiming to do is to onboard 1 billion people onto crypto. So they have a really big DAO community. As well, if you do have a certain amount of bank, you can get involved. So you can just buy that bank and join Bankless DAO. But what they do, and as well as, and some DAOs have this process too, that you can also just get a guest pass. So just to test it out, see how their Discord is operating, how their community is. And if you like it, then you can then, buy the bank and then continue contributing. As another one, which is as well pretty big, it's called MetaCartel, and MetaCartel is an ecosystem of creators and operators building and supporting Web3 and DAOs. So they have a bunch of different grants for projects that are building in the ecosystem, and their members are voting, okay, which projects are we going to give grants for. Then another pretty cool one, it's called Meta Factory. So Meta Factory is essentially a community-owned brand, and they are creating products and experiences and that are kind of connecting the physical and digital world. And they also are really focusing on the metaverse, and like the different products that will then be put onto metaverse. So that's also a very interesting one. And it's really connecting people that are interested in, creating these new brands and these new maybe clothes or accessories or whatever that is. So there's a lot of possibilities there. Another one that I also really like personally, it's called Cabin DAO. So Cabin DAO is essentially building a network city. So they as well are connecting physical and digital world. And what they're doing is they have a bunch of co-living properties around the world. And they're even building new properties together with their community, and then you can just like go and live in their properties. They have a bunch of different creator residencies as well. Then there's another kind of IRL one called Traditional Dream Factory in Portugal, where they are kind of creating this physical co-living space where kind of people that live there would be using tokens to make decisions inside of the community. Then we also have some DAOs that are specifically focusing on minorities. And how can we actually empower minorities? So one of the biggest ones on that kind of front is HerDAO. So HerDAO is specifically focusing on, okay, how can we onboard more women and non-binary into the blockchain space? So they are organizing a bunch of kind of different events, educational experiences, and also providing scholarships for women and non-binary to go to different hackathons and different conferences. Another one, which is very much focusing on climate change, is called Climate DAO. So in Climate DAO, they're really focusing on fighting climate change. And there, you can actually, through contributing to the DAO, you can earn rewards with this climate token. And actually, this climate token is backed by real carbon assets, which is also really interesting. Yeah, but these were just few. We have so many more DAOs that have, a few thousand DAOs right now. Some of them are, just starting out and don't really have, proper kind of systems in place yet. Some of them are more established, but overall, we are still incredibly early in this DAO space. We're all just trying to figure out really how these governance systems can be, operating, and we also have, DAOs that are focusing on service. So where maybe they connect people that have different skill sets, and then they provide services to different clients. They have DAOs that are more focusing on grants, investment, even collector DAOs that maybe are pulling capital together to buy, let's say, expensive NFTs. So there's so many different opportunities and possibilities to get involved into the DAO space, depending what your own interest is, and what sort of vision would you like to support building. Right. So if you would get involved in DAOs, you would as well, something that you would get involved in is the different tooling. So we already saw actually these names when at the very beginning, when we were looking into different governance processes. So we saw that DAOs are using Snapshot, so specifically for voting for different proposals. Then Discord for communication and really hosting the community. Then Wonderverse or Dwork a lot of the times will be used for project management. So let's say if there are certain tasks you need to be done, then these tools will be utilized for this purpose. And then Discord will often be used to discuss the different proposals before they go over to voting. Right. So what are the actual pros of the DAO? So now we discussed, like the different kind of ways DAOs are operating, the different use cases. But why? Like, why would someone start a DAO? Like, what's the reason for it? So sometimes people start DAOs because they really believe in the community and they want their people to really have the ownership, to really have the skin in the game. And if someone has a token, if someone has a decision power, then they're way more empowered to be contributing. They will be way more active, in the community. So that's a great way to, empower the community. And if you see that, for the organization, it's community is the keys at the core, then maybe DAOs can be a way to go. Also, DAOs are very transparent. So in this case, it really creates as well like some form of responsibility for the DAO, since its actions are transparent, to be equitable and to not make unfair decisions, since everyone can see on the blockchain what's just really happening with the DAO. Also, in traditional organizations, let's say if you're working, then maybe you're just gonna get a salary. But with DAOs as well, you will get a token. So a lot of the times, these tokens might also have some financial value. So then, um, you will collect a bunch of tokens, through your kind of time contributing to your organization, which can, then have a lot of potential upside in the future. Yeah, and there's a lot of other benefits that are involved, but these are just a few. And if anyone has as well some other ideas, then as well let me know in the chat. Right. But it's not also perfect. DAOs are not perfect. Nothing is really perfect in this world, and there is a lot of things that are still in development stages. A lot of the things that DAOs are still trying to figure it out, and a lot of the things are actually linked as well with the regulatory landscape. So at the moment, for the DAOs, a lot of times it will not be incorporated because it might be too expensive, because they're struggling to find a good framework, a way to incorporate. There have been some mechanisms that have started to be implemented in different countries, where that allow these legal DAO frameworks to happen. However, this is just in a few countries, and we're still incredibly early. And the issue here is that just we don't really know like what's going to happen. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. Then other times as well, like if community is really much involved in decision making, and many people maybe need to vote in order to make that decision, and maybe the decision making process is going to be slower. Also, we talked about the context problem. How many times people, will not really know even how to make a good decision, or will vote without really having the context. So, giving power to everyone, for everyone to vote, is not always a good thing. And sometimes, when people are voting without having the context, it can result in some pretty bad situations. Also, since we are still figuring everything out, one of the things that as well we haven't really figured out in DAOs is how can we actually make them not chaotic. So I don't know if you've had any experience in DAOs and how much experience you've had in DAOs, but from my experience in most DAOs, it's incredibly chaotic. So I do have to say that at MetricsDAO, we are incredibly organized as a DAO. So there's ways to make it right. But there's still so many problems in most DAOs, and this might a lot of times happen because DAOs are centralized too early. They give power to so many people at once, and then they just cannot really handle, this decision-making process. Also, the times, with DAOs, people are not really committed because they're not like employed full-time or something. So they might just, join as contributors, maybe a few hours one week, a few hours another week, but then they don't prioritize it as their thirst kind of activity. And maybe if their full-time job gets in the way, then maybe they will not do the work. So there's a lot of problems in how can we actually coordinate and engage people that maybe are not working in the DAO full time, and how can we ensure that actually things are getting done, if maybe that person is not prioritizing this as their first activity. Okay, so in the last section, we are going to be talking about, joining a DAO. So, I mean, we have been talking about some very theoretical things now, but the best way to explore and understand DAOs is to join one. And it's actually one of the best ways to just make that step into the Web3 space and actually get some practical experience. So in DAOs, you will meet so many different people. So it's a good way to network, to actually make some friends in the Web3 space. Also, it's a great way to just build your portfolio, and to so that maybe if you want to get like a job later in the Web3 space, you'll already have some experience to demonstrate. Since actually it is the entry barrier to DAOs is since they are more open, it's generally like much easier than in like the traditional organizations where you would actually have to apply, let's say, for a full-time job. Then there is way more autonomy and flexibility involved. So a lot of times, people can work for 3 hours, for 15 hours, for 40 hours, So, and a lot of the times will not matter, really where you're from. So it's just kind of opens up kind of new ways of working and new ways of actually getting involved in an organization. It's really interesting to experience, but it does require you to be, have to say, to to be proactive, and because in the DAO space, since it's not so centralized, you will need to be proactive and create your own tasks. But that also leads into a really great learning experience. So DAOs all the times are creating new things that have not been created before. They're really fueled by creativity and innovation. So it's a very beautiful kind of experience to learn, and just to build something new, or build something that can be really helpful for the whole world in the future. Right. But is it really that easy to join a DAO? Well, it depends. Different DAOs might have different requirements. So some DAOs might be completely open, you can just join. Some DAOs will require you to have an NFT in order to join, or buy a certain amount of tokens. Sometimes they will require you to first contribute, or build, some form of a kind of experience in the DAO to build a certain amount of tokens before certain channels can be open up to you. Before you will be allowed to actually, maybe formally contribute. Before you will be able to maybe even get, money from it. And so when you are joining the DAO, you can actually find out there's different websites like Discover DAOs, DAOs lists, whatever. Just look for those websites, and just see, what's your mission, what you're trying to create. Are they, is there certain DAOs like Climate DAO that are looking at specifically climate change? So what does resonate with you the most? Then what learning opportunity do you want to get into, and what sort of set of skills do you want to gain? What are different opportunities that offers for you to gain those skills? Then also looking into who is in that DAO. Are these the people that you want to network with? Then what are the opportunities for rewards? So if you want to just gain experience, or do you also want to maybe get paid? Is that possible in DAOs? Some DAOs are not actually giving you any paid opportunities yet, and it's just kind of a promise for the future. Some DAOs already giving paid opportunities. So looking as well into that, and that how important that is to you. And also the access as well, like do you need any tokens to join a DAO, or you can just really go for it. Okay, so when it comes to you found a DAO, let's say, hey, like I want to join a DAO. So there's different things that I think is good to do when you decide on the DAO that you want to check out. So definitely check out different DAOs before making that decision. But since most DAOs will be on Discord, so one of the best ways is to join a Discord server. Also join our Discord server, because we also have our community there. So this is one of as well best ways to connect with MetricsDAO. But yeah, join their Discord server, scan for different channels, see if there's any documentation on their website, on their Notion, that you can read. Sometimes they will outline, the different ways to get involved, the compensation mechanisms, Then see, if there are any members in the DAO that you might want to connect with that maybe are in the guilds or pots that you are interested in, let's say marketing or governance, whatever. See if there are any community calls that are happening. Community calls is one of the best ways to introduce yourself to the DAO. We also have community calls every week at MetricsDAO that you can join. They're really open to everyone. Then also ensure to introduce yourself in the Discord channel, because generally DAOs will have that channel, so it's a good way as well just to get noticed by the people in the community. And see, if there are any projects that you could contribute to. For that reason, maybe you can speak with some of the contributors if you cannot find that information, or join the community call and ask there. So there's because a lot of the times this is not going to be clear. But but DAOs are crazy. We're doing something that has not really been done. So a few years ago, like, who would imagine that we could actually have these kinds of organizations? So it's a very, very interesting way of working. It's a very interesting, thing that we are building with these DAOs. So it's a very, very exciting space to be in. And I hope that this was helpful for you. And I actually would like to finish here with the DAOs, but not with this webinar, because we still have a couple of minutes. And in these last couple of minutes, I wanted to just give you a quick overview of MetricsDAO and what opportunities that we have for you available, because we have actually a bunch of cool stuff that we are doing. So I'm going just to give you the introduction now. So I see, okay, yeah. But before that, I actually see a question here that just popped up on the screen. So someone is asking, I'm a Web3 analytics professional. What benefit or opportunity to have in DAOs? Wow, amazing that you're a Web3 analytics professional. Actually, this is perfect community for you, us MetricsDAO, because we are a DAO that connect analytics professionals. So one of the things that you would have, what would benefit you, if you join our community, is that we have a bunch of cool free educational programs that you can just join, and B, we have a lot of exciting analytics challenges that are being brought by our partners. So you can just go and complete those analytics challenges, and then if you do well, you will get paid. And we have people that are getting a pretty good income through just completing those analytics challenges. So if you are into analytics, then MetricsDAO is definitely something that I think that for you would be really, really interesting and helpful to look into. And I will actually share a link as well, like where you can find those different bounties, and also do join our Discord server to learn more and to get different announcements of what's happening with us. But we are not just for Web3 analysts. So if you are a Web3 analyst, if you're not a Web3 analyst, that's okay, because we have a lot of other stuff that we are doing too. So we do have a bunch of different, first and foremost, programs that we are launching. So all the time we are doing these webinars. We're doing now them Mondays and Wednesdays. So next week we're going to have a webinar on Algorand on Monday, and on Wednesday we're going to have a webinar on Cosmos. So they're all going to be free. But other than that, other than these webinars that we are hosting, the one that you're attending now, we also have a bunch of exciting courses for you to join that are completely free. So we currently have courses on Web3 analytics, both synchronous and asynchronous. And we also have an Algorand course at the moment available. And over the next weeks, we're going to be launching Ethereum, DAO, Solana, Cosmos, and Near courses. So there's going to be a bunch of different exciting opportunities for you to learn about different ecosystems. And as well as mentioned, we do have these analytics challenges that, if you do want to learn more about Web3 analytics, or if you want to use your skills that you currently have in order to gain more experience or to gain income, analytics challenges is a good way to get involved. Also, the Discord server is a great way, an opportunity for you to actually join, the community. So I would really encourage you to join our Discord server, and there you will find a DAO chat. So we've just created a chat for you guys, for those who are attending our webinar, and for people who are going to be part of the DAO course. So there we are going to be sharing, the different resources, but also it's a good way for you to connect after the webinar and asking any questions you might have. I'm just aware that, we might not have time, for all the questions that you have, but this chat is going to be a great opportunity for you to ask those questions later. So, and maybe, there are certain links that you need, etc. So this is going to be a great way for us later to connect. But there's one thing when it comes to this Discord chat and Discord channel, because if you want to join the Discord channel, you do need to have something. You need to have a badge. If you want to have the badge, you need to fill in the form. We're going to share the form link right now in the chat with you, but it's a special form that once you fill it in, in that form, you will see a link to your wallet address. You will just drop your Polygon wallet address. We're going to give you a badge in that Polygon wallet, and then you will use that badge to access different servers. To access different channels, including the DAO channel. So this channel is only accessible to people that have a badge. So I would really encourage you to fill in the form in order to continue have access to our community, and to continue learning about DAOs and maybe other things that you're interested in. And just wanted to as well quickly go through the MetaMask wallet, because you do need to have a wallet. I'm not sure if all of you have a wallet, but just in case you don't, you can go to MetaMask website. You can there you can actually create a completely free wallet. Then going to be a browser extension, and there just be aware that you will have to you will get a C phrase, and you will have to remember that C phrase. So do ensure to note it down somewhere where you will not forget it, where you will be able to find it, because it's a very, very important information for you to have and to own. And then when you do have that MetaMask wallet installed, ensure to switch to Polygon network, and then there you will just copy your Polygon wallet address and then fit it, and then put it in the form. So because again, the badge is going to be distributed on your Polygon wallet. And then when you have that badge, which we are going to send to you in about a day or two, so do keep in mind that there's going to be a bit of a delay. So don't be surprised if you don't get that badge immediately, because we will be doing this manually and it will take some time. So in a day or two, just go to our Discord server, and at the very top, you will be able to just connect your wallet with our guild bot, and then you will be able to join the channel. So we'll see that you have that badge, and then automatically you'll be able to join the channel. Okay, so essentially that's how it works. And I'm wondering too, if there's any questions. Okay, how can hunters be hunters? By hunters, you mean whales? That would be prevented from voting. I'm not sure what you mean by hunters, because it's not a vocabulary that I am used to here. this to hearing, but generally DAOs will have certain mechanisms involved in place, and really will depend on the DAO, which mechanism they will use. But generally, sometimes DAOs will actually restrict how many votes can a person have, how much power they can have, and also a lot of the times in DAOs, we do have issues with people that have too many tokens, that maybe are whales and have bought so many tokens, and then they have a lot of power. So if a DAO doesn't have good mechanisms in place, then maybe there's going to be issues with governance. So it really depends on the DAO how they're operating, but I think in a DAO space, it's really important to ensure that you do have these mechanisms in place, and you can actually, with using the blockchain technology, that's the beauty of it. Using these smart contracts can actually create different rules on how people can vote, and on how people that maybe have too many tokens, or not too many tokens, and maybe to have like a majority of tokens be prevented from having a majority of power. So that's the beauty of blockchain technology, and it can be customized to a very great degree. Can we say that decentralized systems have been created to remove the border between countries, and the whole world would be closer to world peace? Wow. Well, I think this is a very philosophical question, and I think that it really depends on how you see how to see it too. But I think that it's definitely a possibility. And I think a lot of the vision of the blockchain technology and of the Web3 space is to really remove those borders, is to connect people together that maybe we're not able to connect before, to coordinate. And one of the things about blockchain is that people can get involved anonymously. So, now you might be in a country where they have maybe where it's not safe for you to raise your voice, where it's not safe for you to, say, to maybe create some form of a movement. But now, in a DAO space, you can actually be anonymous. So your government might not know what you're doing, so it makes it kind of easier for people to anonymously and more safely to work together towards creating these more fair systems. And there's actually some DAOs that are focusing on social justice, on world peace. We have a few DAOs that are actually specifically, for example, focusing on Ukraine, where maybe they are focusing on, okay, how can we actually pull funds together to support, people that are suffering from the war in Ukraine, or how can we actually fight this information? How can we support the people that are oppressed and maybe they are in danger in raising their voice? So I can definitely see that's playing a big role in and kind of a big use case, and how Web3 is kind of impacting the world in a positive way. Okay, almost at the hour. And thank you so much, everyone, for asking the questions. It's been very amazing sharing this with you. And again, we would love to have you in the Discord server, in the DAO chat, so that we can continue communicating. And if you have any other questions, I would love to hear them as well there in the chat. But thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We will be having a bunch of other webinars and courses coming up, so do check them out if you're interested. But for now, I'll say bye. But I hope to see all of you, whether in our community courses or in future webinars as well. We do have a feedback form that we are going to share with you. So If you have anything that you would like to see, you would like to be improved or added, we would love to hear that feedback so we can get better and we can deliver better content for you in the future. Thank you everyone for joining and have a great day. And again, that form is going to be shared with you right now. So before you go and do your Irish thing, would love just 1 minute of your time to fill in that form. Thank you everyone and have a lovely day ahead. Bye-bye.